Representative Ryan Winkler authored the House bill for a minimum wage increase. He's here to talk now a little bit about his proposal and where he intends to go with it next session. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
At first, I wanted to begin with, we did encapsulate that the House passed its version, the Senate passed its version. It made it into conference committee, didn't get out of conference committee. Yet during this entire interim time, you've been really public with this issue. You've issued press releases, you've spoken to people in the community. Why is it something that you keep in the media, keep in the headlines?
Well, I think it's important that we continue to find public support and find public pressure to raise the minimum wage, because it is a very important issue for working Minnesotans. If we raise the minimum wage in Minnesota to $9.50 an hour, 360,000 people in the state will get a raise. The state economy will get a boost of over $400 million, and we will begin to raise the wages of people who are working and qualifying for public assistance. In my mind, in Minnesota, we do not believe that people who work should be relying on public assistance or charity in order to make ends meet. And I think we need to say that work has value, work has dignity, and by raising the wage, we make sure that people can actually afford to support themselves and their families, at least better than they could if we left it at the paltry $6.15 that we're at today.
So what were some of the hang-ups in conference committee? How do you move forward, and what were the key issues that weren't resolved?
Well, fundamentally, it was a question of whether we were going to take a significant step forward on the minimum wage or whether we were going to take a half step and call it good. The Senate passed a minimum wage increase to $7.75 an hour, which is just 50 cents over what the federal minimum wage is. The House bill at $9.50 would be a significant step forward for Minnesota and for Minnesota workers, and we just had a difference of opinion about what was the higher priority. We believed it was putting more money into people's pockets, and I'm not sure where the Senate came down on priorities, but we thought workers should have been the ones who came first.
Have there been any conversations in the interim on this?
There are ongoing discussions at various levels about the minimum wage. I certainly expect it to be one of the top issues in the next legislative session, and I certainly am going to continue to push to get a good, strong minimum wage bill passed.
Okay, Representative Winkler, there's been some talk about adding a rate increase to personal care attendants. They're looking for a 5% increase, maybe rolling that into this final minimum wage package. Is that possible?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the legislative minutia, frankly. I mean, personal care workers, people who take care of people with disabilities and seniors, those are the people who are caring for the people who are most vulnerable. They are making, in many cases, poverty wages. And ultimately, the state of Minnesota, by setting the rates that those providers can charge, has a big role to play in how much those people are paid. So I strongly support a 5% increase. I strongly support getting a wage increase for the people who are doing this work. It's one of the fastest growing occupation sectors in the economy, and if we are not paying these people decently, more and more people in Minnesota are going to be falling farther and farther behind while doing this work. So I think those two things are related issues. Raising the minimum wage and getting a rate increase are related. I am not aware of discussions to tie them together in a legislative conference report or something else. And ultimately, I don't think that really matters. What really matters is that we need to find ways of raising wages for average Minnesotans.
Let's talk about the typical mantra of the Republican Party, which is to let business dictate wages, not the government. You and I have spoken about that before. You've been very public about the fact that it doesn't work. But why not? Why not maybe push businesses a little bit without mandating?
Well, a voluntary system to change worker wages is not going to work. There's been no sign, there's nothing stopping the business community from raising wages now. And what we have is a system that is broken. 80% of people on public assistance in Minnesota are working or have been working in the last quarter. 40% of the jobs in Minnesota pay less than $14 an hour, which is what you need to make a bare bones budget work for two people working and supporting two kids. We are going in the wrong direction in this state when people work and have to turn to charity and government in order to survive. That tells people that work is not valued in this state. And ultimately, I think we have a choice to make this economy about our values as much as it is just about the bottom line in dollars and cents.
How do you intend to move forward with this? You said you'd like to move forward quickly in 2014. Do you plan on calling the same conference committee, dissolving it, and forming a new one? What's your intention?
Sure. Well, according to the rules, you actually have to create a new conference committee. I think that the conference committee itself probably won't be the place where the real negotiations take place about the minimum wage. I think that will be more so at the leadership level, particularly in the Senate. So we will come back together, but ultimately this is a negotiation between Democrats about whether they want to take a stand and put a good foot forward for Minnesota workers or whether the status quo is okay.
Okay, with those words, Representative Ryan Winkler, thank you for joining us. We intend to call you back in when session begins and as this goes into conference.
Okay, thank you.